I am feeling so small. It was over my head. I know nothing at all. And I will stumble and fall. I'm still learning to love, just starting to crawl. Say something, I'm giving up on you. And I'm sorry that I couldn't get to you. Anywhere I would have followed you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. And I will swallow my pride. You're the one that I love, and I'm saying goodbye. Say something, I'm giving up on you. And I'm sorry that I couldn't get to you. And anywhere I would have followed you. Oh, say something, I'm giving up on you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. Say something.
Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.
Come to me, all who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am a humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light.
For all who are led by my Spirit, you are my sons and daughters. You did not receive the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received my Spirit. You've been adopted as sons and daughters.
You are my son. Today, I become your father. I am your father. You are my son.
Today I'm going back to my father, and I'll say to my father, I don't deserve to be called your son. When his son was still a long way off, the father saw him. His heart pounding, he ran out, embraced him, and kissed him. The son started his speech, Father, I've sinned against you. I've sinned before you, and I don't deserve to be called your son ever again. But the father wasn't even listening. He was calling to the servants, quick, bring a clean set of clothes and dress him. Put the family ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. We are going to feast and party today. My son has come home. My son is here. He was given up for dead, but he is alive again. Given up for lost, and now he's found. My child is home.
I am a good father. I know you, and I promise You can hear my voice. The world is so noisy. Sometimes you have trouble finding my voice in the crowd and the commotion of life. But if you would let me quiet your heart, my voice will reach you. I will cut through the loudness, the tremendous volume, and the great racket the world keeps clamoring around with. I am the gentle whisper inside you. Can you hear me? Can you hear my constant love beating inside you, as close as the heart beating in your chest? I am here. Settle your heart. Rest in my love and hear me calling to you. I'm calling your name.
I've been watching you, child, still learning to love, but starting to cry. And I am waiting here now. Will you open your heart? I've been here all alone. You say I'm not giving up on you. You say I'm still running after you. Everywhere I've been there with you. And child, I will never give up on you. Yeah. You say I'm not giving up on you. You say I'm still running after you. Everywhere I've been there with you. Child, I will never give up on you. Child, I will never give up on you. Child, I have given my heart to you. Oh, child, I have given my heart to you. Child, I will never give up on you.
Not too shabby, huh? I've sat through this now 3 times, and it makes me emotional every time. And knowing, and you don't know this, but I know this. There are some of these kids who have never played an instrument until today, or rather not today, but they didn't just pick it up. But they've been working for this day. And some of those singers have never sung before. They don't sing in a choir. They're natural God-gifted talents that they have. And some have never sang in front of people, and so this is a huge accomplishment. This is a huge deal for them, and I'm proud and I'm excited that these are people that are part of our St. Andrew Lutheran family, young families. We have youth, and just overflowing with talent. I'm excited for how God has used them this morning, and for how I see Him using them in the future. So thank you guys for letting us be here this morning. Last night here, we were rehearsing last night still, and we were talking, and we got to thinking how this song really is kind of our testimony this morning. It's our story, and not just any one particular person, but kind of all of our story. And we got to thinking even more, it may actually be all of your story as well. And if we unpack and open that up even more so, it may be the same story and the same testimony that everybody has throughout the course of history. And it's that feeling that I know we've all had at some point in our life. Some of you may be having that moment right now, but you'll know what I'm talking about, that disconnection from God, that abandonment, that feeling that like He's left you in the middle of life. And we are led to ask these questions: is God actually active and present in my life? And sometimes we go to the point of asking and questioning, does His very existence, is that a real thing? Is he a real person? Does He exist? This song is actually a secular song in its originality, and it's been kind of adapted for a church setting, and I think it does a wonderful job at expressing the longing within every one of us, I think, the desire to connect with the God of this universe. Just simply to hear from Him, to know that He loves you, to know that He has an interest in each of our own lives personally. It honestly tugs on my heartstrings every time, but you can hear the pain and the despair and the desperation of the singers as they're calling out and really just kind of begging God to respond in a way. And you can hear that the singer's gone through, every possible thing that they could do. They've tried everything through their own effort, and they've come up empty. They've done everything of their own effort, that is, and nothing. Someone once said that the difference between Christianity and the other religions in the world is basically this, that religion in general is man's way of attempting to reach God. And Christianity through Jesus Christ is God's way of reaching out and attempting to reach man. So often I think that we get that feeling that it's up to us to reach God, to connect with God. We put that weight on ourselves. We say, well, we've got to do things. We've got to be in church on Sunday. And we go through the ritual, and we go through the traditions, which are all good in themselves. But often we think this is the way. By doing these, by carrying these out, we are going to connect from God. We're going to hear from God. We read books and fatten up on our own intellect of God. And yet we're still void of experiencing Jesus. I keep sharing this, but I shared it earlier. The Lutheran Church, the Lutheran denomination, is probably the most biblically intellectual denomination out there. We just know everything. We know everything about the Bible. We know everything about God. Almost, anyway. In comparison, obviously. But we do. We put a lot into our education and our intellect of God. And often we substitute that intellect for real experience with Jesus. I personally know about some of this, and I can identify with this, even as a Christian worker. Oftentimes when I feel that God has pulled away from me, or I'm not hearing His voice in a situation or in a particular season, I immediately think, well, He's pulled back because of something that I've done, or maybe something that I haven't done. And so I think in my mind, well, I've got to fix this situation clearly. It's up to me to fix. And so I'll start taking things on, and I'll be adding things to my schedule. I might start up a new Bible study or class, or I'll go pick up the newest book on how to connect with God better. And I keep doing it. Maybe I'll step up my devotion game, and instead of 15 minutes in the morning, I'm going to do 20 minutes because my effort counts, and it does. And I'm not knocking any of these things. They're important to our growth. But I often wonder if maybe we're putting too much pressure on ourselves, thinking that it's up to us to make this connection. And I know that often I'll just oversaturate my life with God things and God works, so that I can feel like I'm making some sort of effort, so that I can feel like I'm making some progress towards God. I think the more that I do, the more I try and reach Him, the more things I fill my life with, I think that I'm more likely to hear from Him, but really in actuality what happens is I feel like I'm probably cluttering the communication. And I'm making the noise so loud that I'm unable to hear God's voice because of all the things that I've got going. And my focus seems to be spread out a little bit. It reminds me of the story of Elijah when he too was feeling abandoned by God, and God had asked him to go up a mountainside and to the mouth of a cave. And there he would experience the presence of God. And so God sends, he sends a big wind, right? He sends this big wind, and it just wreaks havoc on the mountain. It causes landslides and tears apart rocks. And Elijah's waiting to see the presence and feel the presence of God, and yet God's Spirit, God's presence is not in that wind. And shortly thereafter, God sends an earthquake. And again, it's this massive earthquake, and Elijah is saying, surely this is where God's Spirit is. This is where I'm going to know and feel His presence. And yet His presence is not in the earthquake. And after that, God sends this firestorm, this crazy firestorm. And surely this is the one. This is where Elijah is going to feel God's presence and still know God's Spirit. And it's just shortly thereafter that he hears, and God sends this quiet, whispering voice. And it's in that gentle whisper where Elijah finally experiences the presence of God. I think there's a lot of things we can actually take out of the story. The point I really want to make this morning is that often we're looking for God in the chaos of our lives. We're looking for Him in the divine natural events, the miraculous things. We're looking at Him in the busyness, looking for His Spirit to be in the busyness and in the God things that we fill our lives with. And really what we're doing is probably preventing ourselves from hearing God's voice by filling it with so many other things. I think what God really wants from us is that He needs us to stop trying to create these experiences, these moments. We need to stop creating the chaos because we think that's where He's going to show up. We need to stop trying to reach God on our own. Instead, what I think God wants us to do is take a step back from our own efforts, surrender control, and just let Him come into our lives. I share this. Pastor Dave does a great job. He's planted a lot of things. He's really taught me a lot of things. And this one thing is just stuck in the back of my head. And he says it all the time. He says, God's a gentleman, and He's not going to force His way into your life. And I love that picture of Him. I love this gentleman, chivalrous guy who's not going to kick in the door and force himself into your life. But He's there. He's waiting for us. He's waiting for us to settle down, calm ourselves down, settle our hearts, invite Him in. And we have to surrender. We have to surrender to Him for that. Remember that this whole relationship thing, it's what we were created for. It's what God created us for. And it's not the other way around. I think if nothing else this morning, I just want this to be an encouragement. This song, this message from our youth, from us. I want you to know that you don't, if you're not feeling God's presence this morning, maybe some of you aren't. You may be feeling distant just today. I want you to know and I want you to hear this, that doesn't mean that He's not there. And just because you don't see His activity, that doesn't mean He's not working in your life as we speak. 2 Timothy 2:13 says, even if we are faithless, He remains faithful. I love that. It says that when we give up, when we stop believing in God, God still believes in us. He's there rooting us on. He's cheering for us. He still believes in us. And I know some of us need to hear this today, in fact. So hear me when I say this. You are a child of God, and He loves you more than anything. And next to that love that He has for you, He desires a relationship with you. He wants to be in a relationship with you. And He's not going to give up on you, even when you feel like giving up on Him. He is near, and He's knocking on the door of your life. The question is, will you let Him in? It's been a joy, a privilege, and honor to be here with you this morning to showcase, if you will, some of God's gifts through the youth and young families. This has been just a real privilege of mine. But my prayer this morning, I want to leave you with, is that I pray that you sense God's presence in your life. I pray that His Spirit is felt, that you know that it's there, that He is there, and that He loves you, and that He's calling your name. God bless you guys. Amen.